My name is April Gaydos, and I'm the president of Audubon, New Mexico, here in San Miguel de Allende. And our subject today is the monarch migration and how we can help. And Audubon is involved in this because we've established several pollinator gardens in the San Miguel area, including an education garden at Parque Juarez and pollinator gardens at our schools through our Niños en Naturaleza program.
Hi, my name is Ellen Sharp. I've lived in San Miguel de Allende for the past 3 years. And before that, I lived at the entry of a monarch butterfly sanctuary where I worked in monarch conservation, forest conservation, ecotourism. And I've met a lot of people in the monarch butterfly world, including Dr. Pablo Jaramillo. Pablo, I think we met, was it 2016? When I wrote a blog about the problem of deforestation within the sanctuary. And Pablo at the time was working with Lincoln Brower, who's very well known in the world of monarch studies, and they contacted me about that. So we got involved in some projects together, and I'm really happy to introduce him to April and to people in San Miguel de Allende, so we can talk a little bit more about what will really be helpful for the monarch butterfly migration here in Mexico.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you, April. I'm Pablo Jaramillo Lopez. I'm a research scientist. I've been involved in monarch conservation and research for quite a long time, since 2011. As Ellen has pointed out, I was able to work with Lincoln Brower. He was my, inspiration for the whole thing with monarchs. I mean, he was so knowledgeable and yet so humble. And he was always looking for more information to share with everyone and to do the right thing for monarchs.
Could you share, Pablo, a brief overview of the migratory cycle and
Yes.
the migration phenomenon?
Absolutely. This is very important. And it happens at different times of the year in all three countries, in Mexico, Canada, and the United States, which is very important because we have to do whatever is important for that particular location when the monarchs are in those places. So let's start with the monarchs that are in Mexico from November until March, okay? So these monarchs have come from all over North America, from the United States and Canada, to the east of the Rocky Mountains. All of those monarchs will fly down somewhat at the same time at the middle of October until the middle of November. Sometimes they reach the mountaintops of the Monarch Reserve on the 1st or the 2nd of November. It sometimes matches totally with the Day of the Dead. It's unbelievable. The timing is perfect for them. So when they're coming into Mexico, the only thing that they would need to refuel is some nectar, but certainly some water. So when they're flying into Mexico, that's all they need. And then when they reach the mountaintops, they also look for cold temperatures, because otherwise they will start mating and they will mate too early, and then they would look for milkweed plants to lay their eggs. So they reach Mexico and they reach the mountaintops, and the temperature should remain pretty cool until the end of February, the beginning of March, which is the time that early spring arrives in the southern United States. Okay, so these monarchs will stay in Mexico from November, December, January, February, and sometimes March, even the middle of March. We've seen them depart the reserve anywhere from the 16th, 20th, 25th of March, and as early as probably the 15th of February. So it's a really long, it's a really broad window of time. Okay, so when the monarchs are getting ready to leave Mexico, it's about let's say the beginning of March under a normal year. And they will mate here in Mexico, and the females will be the ones that complete their migratory cycle back to the United States. So the only thing that they're looking for is milkweed plants where they can lay their eggs. And sometimes it can be 200, 300 eggs per monarch butterfly. And imagine a monarch being so worn out, so tired, it's the end of their life. So if there are milkweed plants closer to the monarch reserve, they'll just lay the eggs and that's that, because it's the end of their life. So when they're going back to the United States, it's very important that they don't find any local milkweed close by. But it's the right time for people to be having a lot of milkweed plants in Texas. That's where there should be a lot of milkweed plants, mostly native and especially native species of milkweed. So when they reach Texas, they lay the eggs, and that's the first generation that will be born for that year. That generation will live from 5 to 7 weeks and will start traveling and looking for more milkweeds along the southern United States. Those will be the parents of the second generation that will also live from 5 to 7 weeks and will already have probably reached Michigan and New York and even to the west, Idaho, and these are the parents of the third generation, which also live from 5 to 7 weeks, and these would have already reached Canada. So they're spread out throughout the United States and Canada, southern Canada, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, they're all over the place. And these, the third generation, they're the parents of the fourth generation, which are the ones that are probably born at the end of September, early October. And because the days are becoming shorter, that's what triggers them to enter into the reproductive diapause, which is the standby of their sexual cycle. And these are the ones that will travel back to Mexico and look for the same places where their great-great-grandparents were at. And that's the whole life cycle, which happens throughout the year. So it's very important that the monarchs that are entering Mexico in October or November don't find a source of milkweed plants, because they might feel encouraged to just find them and then complete their life cycle, and they will become a sedentary population. So no milkweed plants should be available for them as they're entering Mexico and as they're leaving Mexico.
What can people here do then to help with this issue? Because I think a lot of people have just taken the messaging that is so predominant in the United States, plant milkweed, help the monarch migration, and not really understanding where they are in their life cycle as they move.
Right.
Yeah, people moving from another country to their new home, of like what's appropriate. So what needs to happen here and in Guanajuato and in other parts near the
In
sanctuary.
other parts of Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Querétaro or San Luis. Yeah. This is very important because we're all excited to help monarchs. We want to help them however we can, right? So what has to be done wherever we are? If we are in Mexico at that time, let's say October, November, try to remove any milkweed plants that are there and just try to have nectar sources. There's all these options for having pollinator-friendly gardens and just attract all kinds of bees and monarchs and hummingbirds and all kinds of pollinator species. And then if you want to help the local population, you might want to plant milkweeds or let them come back at the end of April, right? So cut them back in October and then let them go in April. Avoid the time when the monarchs are here for having any milkweed plants in your gardens.
And I think maybe we should talk about what kind of milkweed is best too. Yeah.
This is important. The only species of milkweed that's available to plant in Mexico is the tropical milkweed. And I don't know if you've heard about it. There's a lot of issues with the monarchs and the tropical milkweed, even when it's planted in the United States, because this species of milkweed resists much more than their native counterparts. And what happens is that these plants can also allow the survival of this parasite that will infest the larvae of monarchs and will make them less prone to flying. Their wings are not as strong, and sometimes they're even deformed. So this is what we have to avoid.
And then the last question that I have is that could you just talk about climate change and the implications for the migration and the benefits then of gardening, pollinator gardening, and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So if you think about the whole geography of North America, we are experiencing climate change everywhere. Places where we get less rain, more rain, extreme weather events, extreme temperature events. It's just gone crazy. So if more of us are doing the right thing wherever we are, that will just provide more area for monarchs to survive. If they come from New York, if they come from Ohio, if they come from Iowa, if they come from, and more people are connected through networks of pollinator-friendly gardens, of monarch-friendly gardens, and doing the right thing wherever we are, we're going to give them more of a chance to survive, even under climate change, and even under this weird scenario that we're all experiencing. And also, think about monarchs as indicator species for our own well-being. If there are more monarchs, that means that there are less chemicals used to produce our food. There's less harmful things that are being used in the next process. So anything that can be done will be done for the right reason.
Yeah, I think that's so important to do things for the right reason, because I think that lots that's happened in the world of conservation in general is that people leap to action without really considering, zooming out and considering the impact in other places.
I think Ellen's point is that the tropical milkweed is actually something that we all left to plant because we wanted to help the monarchs, and in turn, it's not helping.
Yes.
And so number one is refrain from using milkweed or planting tropical milkweed in your gardens. If you have it in your garden, cut it back during the migratory seasons. And we're going to put up a slide that shows that season again.
Yes.
And also about plant nectar bearing flowers. That's like one of the most powerful things that we can do to help all of our pollinators. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been great. And thanks everyone for watching. Please pass this video along to everyone you know.